Hello and welcome to Sideways. Today they said it was going to be 23 degrees, but here at 7:30 in the morning it feels more like 2. Anyway, this week we're talking about blame. While we hold other people responsible for our own shortcomings, and why it keeps us stuck in a miserable place that we'd be better escaping from. We also try and identify the nature of the trees that Martin's grateful for, and work out what kind of fish it is that's actually made into a kipper. Who's to blame? Hello.
Morning. Welcome to British summertime.
Has it started? Oh yeah, it started, hasn't it? Yeah, of course it has. But it doesn't feel very summery to me.
No, it doesn't. No. Did you change your clocks properly though?
Well, I do. Everything does it automatically, doesn't it now? So your phone does it and everything else. So you don't really have to do that, do you?
On my watch, I have to.
Do you wear a watch?
Of course.
Why? You've got a phone.
I've always worn a watch. Where's a little bit more convenient, isn't it? It's just on your watch, especially when I'm at work. You know, and it's the upper level. Unless you keep your phone in your pocket all the time, which I never do.
I expect you've got a sundial, haven't you?
That wouldn't be much good today, would it? Which British summertime and there's no sun out. It wouldn't work.
How come we've ended up talking about the weather again?
I don't know. We're British. That's what happens.
Yeah. Anyway,
you lose. If you don't talk about the weather, you have to forfeit your passport. You're no longer British. It's a prerequisite. Anyway, just before we start this week's episode, there's a couple of points we need to clear up from last week, I believe.
Are there?
Yeah. One of them was that we used the term knit bombing when it's actually called yarn bombing.
You almost said yard bombing there, didn't you?
Yard bombing, yeah. I don't know what that would be.
It'd be bombing people's yards, wouldn't it?
Yards, yeah. That wouldn't be good, would it?
Well, behind the house I live in, there's a builder's yard just down opposite.
Oh, yeah, there is. Yes. Yeah, there are. Yeah, you don't want to go bombing that. It's got a lovely old building in there, isn't it?
Exactly. Exactly. I reckon that was subliminal messaging. You were trying to convince me that I should go and bomb the yard.
Anyway, I suppose yarn bombing is a bit more accurate, though, isn't it? Because it covers. Because you were saying that the pillar box outside your house was being crocheted.
Because you were put straight by someone else, weren't you? You haven't found that out.
No, Lizzie, my youngest daughter, put me straight as soon as she had listened to the podcast. Yeah.
Okay, so that's the first thing cleared up.
And the name of the Snake in Jungle book.
I wasn't far off, was I?
No, you weren't. No, not
Car, isn't it?
It's Car, yeah, KAA. Yeah.
I think it's pretty. I mean, I don't know. Whoever was, who was it? Rudyard Kipling? Did he write Jungle Book?
I think so.
So I'd say he was lacking a bit of imagination, calling the lion or the tiger or what it was Shere Khan, and then he couldn't think of a better name than Car for the bloody snake. Come on.
I know. It just got confusing, didn't it? Draw a line under that.
Yeah. Move on.
Well, it sort of fits in what your little tirade there. It fits in a little bit nicely because I put in the title of my notes this week is "Why We Blame Others." Oh. Obviously, you're blaming the lad Kipling there for a few minor errors. I mean, as a therapist, you see blame as a sort of a psychological projection onto others, don't you?
Well, interesting. I think in therapy, blame's used in different ways. So one of the ways I see it used a great deal in therapy is blaming oneself.
Yeah.
Disproportionately. And then I see also the other extreme, which is finding it very difficult to accept responsibility. So to accept any kind of blame. So,
yeah,
I mean, that's a bit of a generalization, but I would say those extremes certainly are evident in therapy. Yes.
Okay. Yeah, that's cool because they both come up in the addiction circles as well. But I wanted to look at first of all at blaming others and why we use it. This is one that came up recently because we blame others to set them up as a bad person, really, don't we? So we can project. That's why I was going back to this projection. Project their bad feelings onto them.
Yeah, blame. Yes, certainly blame is in one respect a defence. So that
I was going to say, that it's a sort of defence mechanism, isn't it? Really. And And it's a sort of, when you see it, it's a sort of something we come across in addiction all the time, a sort of emotional avoidance.
Yeah. So if you say that it's someone else's fault, then you are dysfunctionally defending yourself, because firstly, it's easier than taking responsibility yourself, but kind of more importantly, it stops you having to look at yourself, and that's the thing people find difficult. And I would think in recovery, that's one of the things that people find excruciatingly difficult, or even before they get into recovery. In addiction, definitely true, that you would do everything in your power not to look at yourself. I mean, that's what addiction is all about, really, trying to prevent yourself from self-awareness.
It is, yeah.
But then I think probably what happens in recovery is when you're going through that sort of process of trying to deal with the negative emotions you have about yourself as a result of your years of destructive behavior, it can become very, very difficult to look at yourself squarely. And it's kind of easier in a way to, in some respects, blame other people and say, well, this happened because of that. But what you're trying to get to is a kind of balance.
Yeah, I agree. And I think we take it to another level when we're in active addiction, because, we will actively search out a reason to carry on, to blame something or someone. We'll almost engineer a situation, especially if, we find that it happens when, relapse is on its way. When people are getting to that point, and they often say a relapse can happen, a couple of weeks before you pick up that drink. And we get this intervening period where you're sort of searching out for something, searching out a reason, or searching out a problem that's going to make you drink again. So you will go and then start to, hang out with those people that are potentially going to cause problems, or you've got a bit of a beef with. So you can engineer those issues for exactly your own purposes there, so you can carry on, or to engineer this relapse and have an excuse for it. Do
you think that when that's happening, people always recognise that that's what they're doing, or do you think it happens subconsciously?
Yeah, subconsciously, I think. Yeah, I do. I don't think it's. I think you've got to be quite powerful in your mind to think this is what I'm going to go and do, and this is what the result I'm going to achieve. I think it's a gradual drift, and it will be done at a subconscious level.
I mean, projection manifests in a slightly different way, in as much as, and this happens a lot in therapy, and it will happen a lot with people who are in recovery, where they will convince themselves that somebody thinks something negative about them, somebody thinks badly of them, or they're disliked, or, people think they're, I don't know, just they'll always be a drunkard or whatever it might be. And it isn't really that people think that about them at all. But what they're actually doing is they're projecting their own worst fears about themselves onto other people. And that can be quite a difficult one to shake, to help someone to understand that it isn't someone else that feels like this about them. It's that they feel like that about them, but it's very, very difficult to acknowledge that they feel like that, because that's very painful, or it's very frightening. And so it's very, very much easier to attribute those feelings to someone else.
I mean, often, you mentioned it early on, it's easier to blame someone else than to accept responsibility yourself. Because there's sort of less effort involved, isn't there, in recognising your contribution to a bad situation, rather than accepting the fact you're actually at fault and changing so you won't do it again. Because I think that's quite an important aspect, as well as is recognising the fact that you're projecting blame onto other people, and then being able to change yourself so you don't do it again and start to accept responsibility, which I found really difficult. I found that really difficult in early recovery. It's something I've gradually become more used to. But I was carrying a whole suitcase of baggage of reasons why I was a drinker, and why I wasn't able to give up earlier, and it was everyone else's fault and everything. But I gradually unpacked that, and I'm much the happier for it.
So in the kind of early stages of recovery, if I had said to you, well, who's to blame? Would you have been able to give me a list of situations and people and circumstances, right?
Yeah, definitely. definitely. It's things I held on to dearly so that I could continue my destructive behaviour.
So what I'm interested in understanding there then is you can look back on that now and you can say, well, I recognise that there were all these things or people in my vision that I was blaming. What was it that enabled you to dismantle those beliefs and recognise that actually those situations and those people were not to blame, and that you didn't, crucially, you also didn't have to blame yourself? There's a kind of difference between recognising that other people haven't been responsible for where you've ended up, but also refraining from blaming yourself to the extent that it feels like you're going to forever need to wear sackcloth. And
I was able to come to terms with it, I think, with clarity of reasoning, which was only proffered by going into sobriety, where I was able to look back, and again with your key workers and the help that you get from the people that are running meetings, and so you can look back at these the things that you've attached your reasoning to in the past, and you change your reasoning. For example, when I look back and I think of the earliest bout of heavy drinking I had was an early bereavement, and I look back on that and think, I held on to that for too long. It was almost like an excuse to behave badly, and I think that's the difference between someone who hasn't got addiction problems and someone that has. Those take a bereavement, for example. You it can be quite an extended period where you're feeling pretty down and are waiting for time to do it, to take its course. With an addict, we start drinking and taking drugs because you don't want to think about it, and it extends that bereavement period tremendously. And then obviously when I had multiple bereavements coming along, they merged into one another, and so I had this massive period of never really come to terms with it all.
I think bereavement is a really good example of this, because whilst you can kind of get to the point where you recognise that there's no kind of sense in blaming that because it's just something that happened. Bereavements, particularly when they happen, for want of a better phrase, out of time, they're not fair. Bereavement doesn't feel fair. So I wonder how you kind of get to the point where you're able to recognise or where you've got the ability to hold those two seemingly contrary positions simultaneously, one of which is, well, I know that there's no point in me blaming that. I can't blame my destructive behaviour on that thing that happened. But it is true that it wasn't fair that it happened to me. Because that's really where we're trying. I think that's one of the things that makes it very difficult for people. They're not binary. It's not black and white. You can't say, this was the cause of what I did, and you then get to the point where you say, well, actually, it wasn't the cause of what I did because it was completely okay. You have to kind of reach a position where you say, there's no benefit in me blaming that for what happened to me, but it still wasn't okay. It's hard to get there, don't you think?
I do. I think you're shifting from a position of blaming it to a position of the reason why it happened.
Yeah.
And I think it's a subtle change, but when you're looking back, when you're dissecting what happened, what made me into an addict, it wasn't just that. It was a load of different things as well. But that was one particular instance that I could hang my hat onto that particular peg quite neatly and say this is the reason. But it doesn't stand up.
But I think going back to blame, that's part of the reason. What you've just been speaking about there is one of the reasons that people do blame is because they find the concept of not pushing responsibility to someone else and taking it themselves a kind of almost unbearable burden to imagine. Whereas the reality is where you're trying to get yourself is somewhere in the middle, where you recognise the part you've played in something, but in recognising the part you've played in something, you don't have to crucify yourself for it. I shouldn't really
you're right.
Say that in Easter week, should I?
No, you shouldn't. No. I hope you're hanging your head in blasphemous shame, young man.
Sorry about that, God.
Yeah, you're right, because you do get to that point where you do blame yourself for everything. And it is, and that's part of the cycle that you go to whilst you're in active addiction. First you're blaming everyone else for it happening, and then you're blaming yourself because you can't shake it off, you can't get out of it. And so it is this horrible emotional cycle and turmoil that you're experiencing. But sobriety sorts that out, and I think for me it enabled me to reach that middle ground where it's I'm still responsible for picking up the drink or taking the drugs. That's I'm culpable for that position in it all. And there are other reasons why I couldn't put them down.
It's interesting that you use that phrase, sobriety sorts it out, because I think you're right, it has for you, but I imagine you see a lot of people for whom it doesn't, because going back to what we were talking about at the start, in terms of blame, I would say as a therapist, self-blame is the thing that I find sticks around. It's very, very difficult to get someone to stop blaming themselves incessantly and holding themselves account for everything and telling themselves that it's all their fault and they're terrible. That sort of disparaging self-view is so destructive, and it in my experience it can take years and years and years to get rid of it. I mean, it might just be because I'm not a very good therapist that I can't help people drop it, but I see so much destruction from that.
Yeah. Virtually everyone that comes into recovery is that their self-esteem is absolutely broken and shattered. It's on the floor. They think nothing of themselves, and I certainly didn't. And it does take a while to build that up. But putting down the substances that were keeping you there gives you a springboard, shall we say? And at that point, you can then start to rationalise what the situation you're in and put steps in place to bring it back round to a suitable position where you're feeling comfortable and getting back to that balance we were talking about.
You said something earlier about when we were talking about the impact that bereavement's had on you. And I think you said something like, in the end, you came to just accept that it was just something that happened. And it reminded me of a conversation I often have with people when I'm inevitably talking to them about their kind of family of origin, the place they grew up and who they grew up with. Because one of the things that people find extremely difficult is holding their parents responsible, because it feels to them as if they are blaming, and people don't want to say, well, I feel like this, or I've had this sense of myself and it was my dad's fault or my mum's fault, whatever. And so it's often very important to help people understand that you don't have to be blaming them. You're not blaming them. We're not saying they did this, they were terrible, they deliberately hurt me. What you're doing is you're just relaying a true experience. This was how it was. This is what I needed. I didn't get what I needed. It wasn't anybody's fault, but it just was how it was. And it's had a significant impact on me.
Oh, yeah, I want to be careful what I say, and then you keep going, remembering what I've said from earlier on, and going back and analysing it. I feel like I'm in the therapist's chair, and I'm starting to squirm a little bit. And I'm feeling uncomfortable.
You should take responsibility for that. Don't blame me.
I wouldn't have you. It just come to mind actually. There's a character in Viz called talking about blame. Little Richard. Did you ever see him?
I don't think I have. No.
Yeah, Little Richard, like the shop Lidl, where his wife sends him out for some frozen peas.
Yeah,
and he comes back home when he comes back home with an outside tap cover and a programmable cat flap that he's picked up. All these things he didn't want, and he gets home and he's got this whole car full stacked up with all this stuff that he picked up from Lidl, and then he gets frozen beans instead, so he gets it wrong. But he blames Lidl for their middle aisle policy. He said, it wasn't me. They just put all these cheap things in the middle. I had to look at them and I created a need for them, sort of thing. So yeah, Little Richard, he was good. I related to him.
Yeah, I've worked with a lot of Little Richards over the years.
But we've also come across serial blamers, haven't we? I know when I was back in the corporate world, you'd always come across someone who would blame, in their own eyes, they could do nothing wrong. and they tended to be poor performers in the corporate world, but they blamed everyone else. Everything wrong that happened around wasn't their fault. Do you remember ever coming across people like that? And you think of them and you have a really low opinion of them, and it seems like everyone else does as well.
Yeah, I do remember people like that in the corporate world, but I probably think when you give that description, I probably think more about people that I come across in my work now who essentially are narcissists. You never see a narcissist in therapy for obvious reasons, because a narcissist would never think the problem was theirs. But as a therapist, you certainly hear a lot of stories about narcissists.
We also get people that are struggling and sort of lapsing and going back on the drink, and they're still posting on the Aspire to be the WhatsApp group, and they're hanging the blame on a particular set of circumstances. They will not let it go. It's almost as if they're justifying and blaming the situation around them, which, we encourage them to, obviously to talk about it. We like to engage in the conversation with it, but to take some of the responsibility. But, drinking is not going to help the situation. That all the time you're picking up a drink and taking drugs, you're never going to be able to resolve this issue. So it comes up all the time.
Yeah, unfortunately, that in those sort of situations, and obviously you can't say this to people who are in that position, but they're essentially in a victim mentality.
Yeah.
Because and the problem with being in a victim, having a victim mentality is you are paralysed there until you step out of it. So all the time you stand as victim and you say, well, it's your fault that I'm in this situation, or it's this situation that's caused me to be here, and you're waiting for someone to pull you out. Nothing's ever going to change. The only time you can ever change that situation is when you take responsibility, which is why relapsing and then blaming someone else is evidence of you failing to take responsibility and an unwillingness to look at yourself. There's no other way. We know that. No one's ever done it any other way.
No, and I think if you look at that, playing the victim, I think we're going back to the sort of the drama triangle there, aren't we? Where you can move around that, and it
is indeed. Yep.
Yeah, but it comes up a lot where we will blame, and I've been guilty of myself in the past. Blaming the circumstances for me behaving in a bad way. It makes you feel better about yourself. Or it makes you feel
I don't think it does it?
Well, you're justifying it, aren't you?
Even if it kind of feels okay in the moment, in the long run, it never makes you feel better. It doesn't. I would defy anyone to say that revenge or blame or bitterness about someone else in the long run makes them feel better. It doesn't.
I probably phrased it incorrectly there, but it makes them feel better about themselves in the short term when they're convincing themselves they're not to blame.
Right.
And they're shoring themselves up. I suppose if you looked at, like a serial blamer, so I suppose like someone like Donald Trump, really, everything that happens around them that goes wrong, it's not their fault. There's always someone else. It's immediately blamed on others, isn't it? Everything is nothing to do with him. What he was doing was perfect, and everything, what everyone else was doing has created the situation, even down to the crooked pollsters, that made him lose the election. Never took any responsibility himself on that one. And so he'd have convinced himself that he was right. And it made him feel better about himself that he was, not only was everyone against him, but what he thought was absolutely right.
Yeah, I mean, he's a kind of both an interesting and perhaps an extreme example because, I mean, obviously I don't know, but I wouldn't be at all surprised if he's got some sort of personality disorder. When you feel like that, as you say, you genuinely don't believe you're wrong. And so there's a kind of difference there, I think, between people who fall into that category and people, and you will know people like this, you'll see people like this all the time, people who are casting blame out, but actually they know that they're not taking a look at themselves. And I suppose that's what I meant when I say when you're pushing responsibility out to someone else and you know that you're being a bit disingenuous, you're not really seeing it like it is, you don't feel better about that because there's always something there within you, that kind of that knowledge that, I'm not looking at myself. And that's, as I say, that's why you take drugs. So you don't have to do it.
No, exactly right. It's escapism. You escape having to deal with the emotions that are surrounding you at the moment. They're uncomfortable.
They are.
And I think when we project blame onto someone else, we feel less uncomfortable.
Yeah.
It's a nasty place to be, which luckily, over the time I've been in recovery, I've been able to deal with that, and I don't have issues with it anymore. But I thought it came up on one of our conversations. I thought it was quite an interesting one to look at.
Definitely.
And I knew you'd have plenty to say on that, which is why I did give you a heads up yesterday. So we'd be talking about blame and projection, because I could get away with making very few notes and just let you roll.
Yeah, although I didn't write anything down, I did actually think about it while I was eating my breakfast this morning. So how's that?
It's very good. You're a bit like this week we was working with on this property that's being renovated. We're working on it, and the plumber there, he was a funny guy, and he was saying that he was billing the owner for a certain amount of time for doing the plumbing work, and he said, I also charged him because the hour I was laying in bed this morning thinking about it. So, he's going to put that on the bill as well.
Well, preparation time. That's still
exactly, yeah.
That's still time invested, isn't it? I was enjoying the time I was thinking about it because I was eating kippers, which were nice. But yeah, I'm not going to bill you for it. Although I am blaming you for making me miss some of the cricket while we're doing this recording.
Sorry about that, mate. I don't know how it's going at the moment. So what we're going to talk about, what about gratitude this week then? It's obviously not going to be the cricket at the moment, but have you got anything on your list?
Yeah, well, I thought about this when I was clearing up from breakfast. See, I'm getting better. I'm beginning to do what you could broadly call preparation. And this might sound a bit sort of a bit twee, but I actually feel gratitude today for my past. I feel gratitude for what I've learned in the past, but more importantly, when I worked in the corporate world, I think just after I left the corporate world, I would have said, good riddance. And there was so much I hated about it, and it was stressful and horrible in many ways. But as time's passed, I've recognised what it gave me. Lots of things. And I think as I've got older, I've become more and more grateful for those years of my life. And I think, I think the more you can be grateful for the experiences you have in your life, probably the easier it is to feel satisfied with where you are. So that's what I'm grateful for this week.
Oh, that's good. It's good. But I think I think you should go back and listen to our episode on fade effect bias, because you're seeing things in a rather different manner than you saw them at the time. Go back and listen to some of your own advice, young man.
I'm also grateful for kippers, by the way.
Oh, yeah, okay. Well, generally, the fish in the sea or that particular breed.
You can't catch a kipper out of the sea, can you? You got to smoke it.
You got to smoke it and all that. Yeah, it's a mackerel, isn't it? Is it a mackerel?
No, it's not mackerel. No.
What is it then?
It's a herring, isn't it, or something?
Herring. Mine's a little bit twee, but it's the blossom on the trees outside my window.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. No, I know. It's they don't. I don't know what sort of trees they are, but they have this lovely white blossom.
They sound like they're flowering cherries.
I think they are a cherry. It may well be. It's a white blossom, and it comes at this time of the year, and it gives me an indication that spring is here. Spring is on its way. We're getting the better weather, so it's always nice. It's nice to see them. It cheers me up because they look quite barren during the winter months. So I'm grateful for that.
That's nice. That's very nice.
Spotify search. You must get. What happens if I put blame into Spotify?
Let me think.
There's a very famous one.
Is there?
Well, yeah, it's a bit of a shot in the dark to get it right first time. But the Jacksons, they blamed it on the boogie.
Oh my God! Yeah, of course.
They blamed everything on the boogie. It wasn't the sunshine or the moonlight or the good times. No, it was the boogie.
I'll tell you what, I can honestly say I've never had any client that's blamed anything on the boogie.
No, I've never heard it. It's never come up in groups either.
No.
And why did you get involved in taking heroin? It's a boogie. All right, off you go then. The Jacksons told me it was all right.
that blessed boogie, it's got a lot to answer for. What else came up then?
Well, when I was looking through it, It Wasn't Me by Shaggy, obviously, that comes up.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I think that's a great projection song, that one.
Didn't I do a version of that on one of our episodes?
I think you probably did, yeah.
I think I did. I think we must. Did we do one about taking responsibility?
Yeah, we did earlier on, I think, yes.
I think if you go back and listen to that, I think you'll probably find that I did a cover of It Wasn't Me. Yeah, very good.
Well, I did find a new band that I really liked called Blame the Sacred, which they're a
metal?
rock band. They're a metal band, yeah, a rock band from Doncaster, and it's I feel like it's great doing this Spotify. So I discover new bands, and I really like Blame the Sacred. There's some proper sort of traditional metal riffs going on in there and chord progressions, but they've got a single called The Edge of Tomorrow, which is really, really rather good. So I'm enjoying this Spotify search part of each episode I do when I'm doing the notes now, because I'm discovering new bands aplenty.
Well, I don't know if we've ever spoken about this, but the kind of older 1980s version of doing a Spotify search was basically the way that I used to buy albums. Have we talked about this?
Not really. No, I don't think we have.
Right. So when I used to buy, if I was in those days, it would have been cassettes or records. But I used to go into second-hand record shops, and I used to kind of flick through the racks. This is my kind of favourite thing to do on a Saturday afternoon. And I go flick through the racks, and I would choose albums to buy on the basis of whether or not I like the cover.
Yeah.
Did you ever do that?
I did. There was Vinyl Records down Union Street in Maidstone. Had a lot of second-hand records, and Eddie Locke, the guy in there, who owned it. I used to buy. Certainly cassettes, because you could get them for like 50p, and it didn't matter if you didn't like them. I remember buying the one by a cassette. An album by the Filthy Christians, and I just liked the name, but it was absolutely terrible. The stuff was terrible, but I really liked the name. But it's 50p. But now you can go on Spotify and do it for free.
Yeah, the other good thing about getting second-hand records from Vinyl Records was if you didn't like them, you could take them back and flog them back, couldn't you?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's just not going on anymore, is it?
No, I miss physical media, actually, for listening to records and stuff. I mean, you told me last week the cassette's coming back. I think you must have been, I don't know, you'd had too much coffee that morning or something. But
no.
I can't believe that's happening.
No, and it was on one of the news bulletins on the TV. I think it was on BBC. So
that was one of your. I expect that was a dream you had after your bloody turmeric tea.
I've got one of those on the go at the moment, actually. Yeah.
How is your turmeric tea? You said you'd tell me what it was like.
Very nice. It's chili chai with turmeric in it, and it's delicious. It's got a chili buzz to it as well. It's got a tang.
Yeah. It's basically stock that you might make a gravy or a sauce with. That's what you're drinking.
You pop a little bit of milk in with it, and you're away. It's beautiful. I've got a pot on the brew, so I should be drinking that all morning.
All right, are we done?
I think we're done, mate. Yeah, I'll see you later then.
Yeah, cop you later.
Take it well easy.
Bye.
Bye.
Sideways was created by Graham Landy and Martin Pankhurst. If you want to read more about our work or sort through the extensive archive of past episodes, just visit grahamlandywellbeing.co.uk/sideways-podcast. You can follow us on Twitter or Facebook or Instagram at Sideways Podcast, and you can email us if you have a question or if there's something you'd like us to cover. But most of all, we want to tell you how grateful we are that you come and listen, and we ask that if you've enjoyed what you've heard, that you spread the word. And we'll see you next week.